Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland, and this video is about Brexit, the final countdown. Well, there's under 3 weeks left to go. So it reminds me of that song entitled A Final Countdown from the early 90s. Appositely, it was sung by a band called Europe, a Swedish band as it happens. Well, what's going to happen? That was a fool's errand, speculating. I noticed the European Union is going to keep an office in Scotland. Why? Now, they could keep one for the whole United Kingdom, but why particularly Scotland? They might be thinking, if we can't keep the whole United Kingdom, perhaps we can keep Scotland, because 62% of people in Scotland voted Remain. So if they can get Scotland to secede from the United Kingdom, then Scotland might request a cession to the European Union. That would be some sort of a gain for the EU. But there we are. And Nicola Sturgeon is keen on that one. Will she get a second bite of the cherry on the referendum on Scots separation? I doubt it. But anyway, that's a bit tangential. So Michel Barnier, who is the EU's chief negotiator on Brexit, he said the backstop will not be permanent. Up until now, the United Kingdom was going to sign up to the backstop as in compliance with EU regulations for the time being, until such time as the European Union and the United Kingdom were able to thrash out a mutually satisfactory alternative trade agreement, what regulations the United Kingdom would comply to and not, EU goods and services, provided the European Union what regulations they would have to comply with, tariffs, all that kind of thing. And that was going to be a real can of worms, could have taken years to sort out. But now, and the UK was not going to be allowed out of that unless the European Union granted permission. But now Michel Barnier says that the UK will be. The trouble is, there's an awful lot of chicanery from the European Union, and I can see them reneging on that one. So the European Union is also worried about not getting a golden handshake. Remember that £39 billion payment the United Kingdom was going to pay on leaving the European Union because the EU had signed up to another budget round and various projects, salaries of British bureaucrats and all the rest of it, pensions. Because if the United Kingdom didn't make an agreement with the EU was not going to get a penny. And that would blow a massive black hole in the EU's budget. 20% of the EU's budget comes from the European Union. So the UK has something like 13% of the EU's population, but pays in about 20% of the money, as it's one of the more prosperous member states. And that would put a heavier financial burden on the other wealthy EU states, such as Germany and Sweden. And the EU will be faced with the three options: to get member states to pay in more, to cut spending, or to borrow more. Probably a combination of all three. But the EU is hoping they can avoid that. So they're taking a bit of sang-froid from the United Kingdom to reach this stage. Well, the hardline Brexiteers, the European research group, they've stiffened the spine of Theresa May, well, somewhat against her will, by voting against the previous agreement. Now, the border in Ireland, is that a red herring? Outside the Palace of Westminster, I bumped into two women, ladies for leave. One was a Dubliner, in fact, and they were saying the whole thing is a nonsense because the border checks anyway, not that often. But to see that whatever the people are paying tax on whatever it is, they're not taking an unduly high amount of fuel here and there, because there can be different levels of tax in the Republic of Ireland and in the UK. And just anti-smuggling, you are allowed to check people's goods and services and everything going between EU member states. They very seldom do, but it is allowed, and occasionally it happens. So there was a hard border in Ireland because of the Troubles, and the Troubles was not because of a hard border. People get this the wrong way around, deliberately, Irish nationalists. So obviously in 1921, the major portion of Ireland we left the United Kingdom. Northern Ireland remained within the United Kingdom. And then by the late 60s, the UK and Republic of Ireland had made a free trade agreement, and that was that. But certain things were not allowed in one member state that weren't allowed in the other, particularly not contraceptives allowed in the Republic of Ireland. Then the Troubles erupted in 1969. I won't be mired by that one, talking about all that. But the British Army was there, together with the Royal Ulster Constabulary, that was the police, seeing that people weren't illegally smuggling weapons across the border, or indeed that people who are wanted on suspicion of terrorism weren't coming in or indeed leaving. So, as I say, there's less than 3 weeks to go, and the absence of panic is palpable. because the Eurocrats would have us believe, or the Europhiles, that the sky will fall on the 20th and 9th of March, and it doesn't seem to be so. Look where the pound is. Not that low. It's about as high as it was a year ago. And what else? Stock market not doing too badly. The unemployment's gone down, not up, since the Brexit vote. Remember, we were told that the unemployment was going to increase hugely, that there'll be an emergency budget, there'll be extra taxation, that so many companies are going to leave the UK. Some of them have, and a few of them have signed Brexit. But most of it is proved to be nonsense. It's been very much overblown, the negative effect. So I do think there'll be some market turbulence. I do think there will be repercussions of Brexit. Yeah, it'll have a negative economic impact for a few years. And in the long run, I think it'll be better. It may transpire that I'm mistaken, but I didn't want it for primarily economic reasons. Even the United Kingdom is permanently poorer. I still want Brexit. If people were actually reduced to malnutrition, all right, then I would change my tune. I'm not an absolutist. So there's talk of Brexit, a vote to delay Brexit, delay it by 3 months so that they can try to resolve more issues. But come on, there's been 2.5 years already. What more time? Why more time? There's been ample time, been some goodwill on both sides, there's been some malevolence on both sides, and obviously there have been Remainers in the United Kingdom who will not accept the will of the people. I know people exploded on the Remain side if I say that, but it is 52%. There's only ever been one other referendum on a United Kingdom-wide basis. Otherwise, referenda have been for Northern Ireland only, London only, Scotland only, Birmingham only, Wales only, whatever. The only other UK-wide referendum was on the alternative vote way back in 2011. So that was that on a high turnout, 52% decision to leave the EU, despite huge advantages on the Remain side. Perhaps I shouldn't even go into it. And the government misusing taxpayers' money to fund EU propaganda. And there's been EU propaganda all over the shop for years, paid for by the EU. There's been the junkets, the freebies for students and school children to go to the European Youth Parliament. And it's in the curriculum in geography and politics, saying hugely positive things, not so much of the critique of the EU. And it's even worse in other EU member states. And always saying, no, this project part funded by the EU, obviously not pointing out the UK is a net contributor. Republic of Ireland, loads of projects says is part funded by the European Union. Never says it's part funded by the Irish government or county council or whoever, even when it is. So the Remainers say, well, can we delay by another 3 months or 6 months, something like that? But remember, in May, there's supposed to be another set of European Union elections, and the UK would be in breach of the law by not electing people to the EU Parliament, who would then serve for like 1 month. So I don't think it's going to happen. 6 months, that would give them a bit more of a breathing space, but I don't think there's any sense in delaying the inevitable. I suppose they're clutching at straws. They're desperate for it not to happen. I mean, I still wonder whether Brexit will happen, at least happen properly, because some people will stop at nothing to prevent it being implemented. So that's that, because the Remainers think if they can't prevent it, can they delay it? Well, can they delay it and delay it and delay it and eventually run out of steam? And if they have a Brexit at all, make it as nominal as possible and possibly be able to go all the way back in. But we'll see. But they've had vote after vote after vote. If they've done anything, they showed really bad will, because that's it. The whole point of the referendum was to find out what the majority wanted and to put that into effect. Now, it's true that Parliament is not legally compelled to vote for that, but actually Parliament has voted for that. There was the EU Referendum Act, there was the EU Notice of Withdrawal Act, and there was the EU Withdrawal Act. So Parliament has voted. It is the will of the people, and it is the will of Parliament. So it's an absolute slam dunk. It's just unarguable now. You wanted parliamentary sovereignty, you've got it. And by the way, of course, the United Kingdom could apply to rejoin the European Union. The Treaty of Lisbon provides for this scenario. If any EU member states withdraw from the EU, it is welcome to apply for readmission. That doesn't guarantee that the United Kingdom would be taken back. If it were taken back, it would be on less favourable terms at the moment, I suppose. A larger budget contribution, and probably the EU would say, and if you rejoin, you're never allowed out. But there we are. I'm against the EU for lots of reasons, but I shan't rehash my grounds for wishing to leave the EU, wishing the Republic of Ireland to leave the EU, whether we rejoin the UK or not. As by either case, I would rather leave the EU. But the EU is not all bad, and the European project, the germs of it are a good idea. There was some benevolently intentioned people behind it who wanted peace and prosperity and all the rest of it. I'm a cosmopolitan sort of person, a polyglot, and open-minded, a xenophile. So I recognise there's some detestable people on the Leave side. So really, there's very little time left to delay this. At the 11th hour, will it be delayed? I slightly think it will, actually. More likely than not. We shall see. We live in interesting times.